What's up, Ragin Nation? How's it going? This is Alex. You're watching Ragin Ronin review. Got a review for you. Last night I checked out an advanced screening of Godzilla, King of Monsters. This is, of course, the sequel to the 2014 monster hit Godzilla. And this is actually the third film in Warner Brothers and Legendary Entertainment's Kaiju cinematic universe. It started off with Godzilla in 2014, directed by Gareth Edwards, and then we had Kong Skull Island in 2017, which is of course a King Kong reboot movie, and then followed by this year's Godzilla King of the Monsters, and then next year we're getting Godzilla versus Kong, and then I don't know where it goes beyond that. But anyways, this is their cinematic universe. And this film is written and directed by Michael Dougherty, and it has returning cast members from Godzilla, including Ken Watanabe, who plays Dr. Ishiro Serizawa, as well as Sally Hawkins, who also works for the Monarch, that organization. And then David Strathairn returns as a military general. Then we have a pretty solid cast, like a new cast, including Kyle Chandler, Vera Farmiga, who's one of my favorite actresses of all time, Millie Bobby Brown, Zhang Ziyi, as well as Charles Dance and O'Shea Jackson Jr. So we have a really solid cast here. Now, I really liked Godzilla, the 2014 film. I like the story, I like the story development, and I also like the monster action. But one of the fans' biggest complaint about the film, despite it being a good movie, is the fact that there's really not a lot of kaiju action. It really teases it. It has it develop, you know what I'm saying, to the climactic finale, and that's the only real time where you see all the big kaiju action. And that is actually a legitimate complaint, because I have the same opinions as well. So despite it being a good movie, there isn't enough monster action. Now, Godzilla King of the Monsters fixes that problem, but it introduces a whole bunch of new problems. And, I'll be completely honest. This movie is a chaotic mess. It just is a chaotic mess. There is a lot of monster action in this movie. And a lot of people are assuming that it's not a good movie because there's not enough story development or character development. It's not that at all. My biggest complaint about the movie is how they fix the first film's problem. And that is, I like the fact that there's more monster action in it, but the biggest issue is the way the monster action is just one big chaotic mess. There's a lot of monster action that's shot close up. So when you watch it take place, it's just a lot of close-ups of imagine the frame around my head and I'm getting punched. I don't even know where the punch came from. Sure, I know, in the context of the fight, I know who's giving the punch, but it just happens, and you just see a lot of destruction happening up close. So what is going on here? There's just a lot of things blowing up, buildings crashing down, a lot of biting and clawing and punching, but it's just a lot of close-ups of it, and that's the majority of the action. A lot of the action is very, very big. But what's going on is that you don't see what's really happening in the grand scope of it. You just really see a lot of close-up action, and it's just a lot of destruction that's taking place, but you don't really know what's going on. And the thing about it is that I kind of saw this coming because of when I watched all the marketing for this film, which in some cases, some of it actually did look awesome. But when I first saw the teaser for it and then the trailer after that, it really showed me that a lot of the action that's going to be taking place in the film, the monster action, is going to be up close and filmed in dark. And that's another thing. A lot of the action, in fact, all the action takes place in the dark. I'm not talking about Game of Thrones dark. I'm just talking about how it's never really actually well lit. It's never well lit, and that's because of what takes place in the story. There's always a storm happening, and it's there for a reason, but there's always a storm, there's a lot of clouds, and it's just dark. And because of that, a lot of the action that takes place is not clearly seen. And It's not always like that. There is a particular scene. There's really like 3 major action sequences, but the middle action sequence is pretty cool. But I like it. It's because it's a human versus kaiju action sequence. But when you see the monster on monster action, it really isn't as it doesn't look as cool as it could have been. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know why they decided to go with that direction, but that's one of my biggest complaints about the movie. My second complaint about this film is that there is a very weak antagonist element. And once again, they decided to in this case they decided to introduce a human antagonist element to it. But it's very, very weak. As a matter of fact, I do not buy into the motives of this human antagonist element. Like, I think they tried to be intelligent about it. Like, they tried to go with an intelligent approach, but it's very, very flawed. Like, it's a very flawed logic. The motive behind why the humans are doing what they're doing, it's a very, very flawed logic. I tried to convince myself that, okay, you know, this works. It doesn't work at all. In fact, I would rather the antagonist element about this film be exactly what the fans want. Monsters. Okay, just have the antagonist element be monsters. Not some human nonsense with some nonsense motive. Just let it be King Ghidorah as the only antagonist element. That's all we need to do. Make him a big bad villain, not this human craziness, which is, it doesn't make any sense to me at all. So, like, why have that? So that's my other complaint. My third complaint is not really a complaint at all. It's really just a, like, what the heck? Like a WTF moment involving Zhang Ziyi's character. Zhang Ziyi plays a character who works for Monarch named Chen. And there's a scene which is a bit of exposition about her character, and once once that moment happens, I'm like, what? Like, I am so confused. Like, it makes no sense at all, and then what that exposition reveals is never followed up upon. Like, it's just there, but it doesn't even need to be there. Like, it doesn't make any sense at all to even have that moment at all. As for the rest of the film, I'm okay with it, actually. I enjoyed it for what it is, but it's not a great movie. It's not a great sequel. It's not even a solid sequel, but I will commend it for what it attempts to do, and that is give us the ultimate kaiju action film. And it does a decent job at doing that, but I still think, in my honest opinion, I still think that Pacific Rim is the ultimate kaiju movie that's out there in recent years. I'm not talking about, and I'm not even going to talk about the previous Godzilla films. I'm talking about what has come out of American Hollywood studios. You know what I'm saying? So if you're looking for the biggest, baddest kaiju movie, I think that Pacific Rim does a better job than Godzilla King of the Monsters. It's just because when I want to watch a film called Godzilla King of the Monsters, I want to be able to see. And I'm talking a bit about being able to see the kaiju action. I don't really get to see the kaiju action that's going on because it's one big chaotic mess. Speaking of which, the actors in this movie, I like them. I like a lot of the actors. I like their performances. I like who they are. They're not really like amazing actors. I mean, like amazing, like well-written actors, but I don't even really care about that. What I do care about, and something that kind of bothers me, is that there are humans that are in the crossfire of a big kaiju battle going on, but they don't ever seem to really feel threatened by any of it. I'm just thinking to myself, if I was watching Godzilla and King Ghidorah go at each other, and then buildings are tumbling, I would be a little bit more, I would be less calm. You know what I'm saying? I would be running, driving, flying. I would be getting out of the way and just let them do their thing. It's kind of like what made the first one great, and that is when Ken Watanabe just said, let them fight. Just let them fight. Don't worry about anything else. Just let them go at each other. And that's a message I want to say to the director. Let them go at each other so that the audience can see it. But what we're seeing instead is just, I don't even know how you can even describe that. It's just a big chaotic mess. But I mean, the movie has its moments. There are story developments. Story developments. Some things that I thought was very, very interesting, which actually goes into the lore of Godzilla. I'm talking about like Japanese Godzilla, the original Godzilla. And there's a lot of Easter eggs, which really calls back to the original Godzilla. So that's really cool that they decided to do that and include all those Easter eggs and really stay true to the source material. But once it gets down to what fans are waiting for, the big kaiju action, I mean, even for the people that enjoyed this movie, don't you think that it would have been cool if we kind of saw like the fight not just be like a whole bunch of mishmash of close-ups? I mean, it's a very, very technical thing, but it's almost kind of like what we experienced with Michael Bay's Transformers films. Don't you want to just have the camera pull back and to be able to see all the action that's going on instead of just like a shaky camera work and then just have like just metal clanging around? I mean, that's kind of what we got in this film. So I don't feel I need to revisit this film, at least not on the big screen. But I think it's decent for what it is. But it's not a great film. Like, it could have been a great film. But there are just some things that, a lot of things that could have been fixed. First of all, just take out the human antagonist element. That's one of my biggest things. Take that out first. And then second, fix the camera choreography with the fights. You know, when filming a fight scene, it's not just fight choreography, but camera choreography. How they decide to film the action that's taking place is done very poorly. You know, and for somebody that has seen the movie, you know that could have been done a lot better. Because I want to see the kaiju action. Everybody wants to see the kaiju action. It could have been done a lot better. So, there you have it. I'm going to give this a 6.5 out of 10. I gave Godzilla 8 out of 10. I think it's a great movie. I gave Kong Skull Island a 7 out of 10. I think it's a good movie. It was decent. Definitely a very, very fun adventure flick. But I'm going to give Godzilla King of the Monsters a 6.5 out of 10. Doesn't quite... I mean, it might live up to some people's expectations, but you do know that it could have been better. But that human antagonist element was completely flawed logic. It didn't make any sense at all. I mean, like, you gotta be kidding me when... I mean, I had to really convince myself that was a good plan, but it just doesn't work in the end. So, there you have it. I don't buy that at all. Anyways, that's all I got to say in this review. 6.5 out of 10. Slightly disappointed, but I'm at least glad I saw it and watched it on the big screen. I saw it in IMAX, so that was pretty awesome. But, yeah, could have been a lot better. As always, if you enjoyed this review and you want to see more, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to YouTube channel, like me on Facebook, The Ragin Nation. Also follow me on Twitter, Ragin Nation. My name is Alex. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Peace.